Beneath Antarctica's endless white silence lies a world that has never been touched by the light of the sun. A land where ice conceals secrets older than human history itself. Imagine ruins frozen for millennia, locked beneath sheets of snow that rise higher than mountains. Could they be remnants of forgotten civilizations or whispers from Earth's earliest past? The deeper we go, the more the silence speaks. Before we descend into this journey, take a moment to join us. Subscribe if you believe in uncovering the mysteries hidden beneath the world's final frontier, and let's begin. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not the kind of silence that lingers in quiet rooms or the pause between spoken words. This silence is heavier. It presses down with the weight of miles of frozen air, swallowing every sound until even your heartbeat feels out of place. Antarctica is not merely still, it is a silence so complete it becomes a living presence, a companion to every step upon the ice. The horizon stretches without mercy, a plain of white so vast it bends the imagination. The human eye, trained to find edges and borders, struggles here. There is no horizon line, no familiar landmarks. Only an unbroken world of ice, where sky and snow fuse into one seamless canvas of endless pale light. In summer, the sun hangs low, circling endlessly without setting, painting shadows that stretch for miles across glaciers. In winter, there is no sun at all, only darkness pierced by the occasional shimmer of the aurora. Curtains of green and violet swaying above the frozen earth like ghostly fires. Here, the wind is the only voice. It howls across the plains with a ferocity that carves ridges into the ice, sculpting landscapes that seem otherworldly. Jagged spires of frozen snow rise like alien monuments. Caverns open in the ice, their entrances dark, as though inviting you to step into another realm. Each gas feels older than humanity itself, a reminder that this land does not belong to us. It belongs to the elements, to time, to something far greater. And yet, people came. Centuries ago, explorers chased the edge of the world and stumbled into this endless whiteness. They arrived with wooden ships, sails stiff with frost, and hearts unyielding. Some believed they had found the edge of creation itself, a land untouched by God, where no living soul could dwell. They told stories of strange silhouettes on the horizon, of shadows half seen through blizzards. Were these hallucinations brought on by hunger and frostbite, or glimpses of something hidden beneath the snow? The silence keeps its secrets well. Beneath the surface, miles of ice conceal a world unseen. Subglacial rivers twist in darkness. Entire lakes remain sealed off from the sky, their waters older than our species. What thrives there has never known sunlight. What lies buried there may have never been meant for human eyes. Legends grew around this place, long before satellites charted its terrain. Sailors whispered of mountains of glass and ice, of ruins that rose only to sink again beneath storms of snow. Ancient maps, impossibly detailed, hinted at coastlines drawn before human discovery. Some claimed that these shores were once home to green forests, rivers, and perhaps even civilizations swallowed whole by sudden cataclysm. To stand on the ice today is to stand upon a question older than memory itself. But the silence is not empty. Close your eyes, and it seems to hum with hidden resonance, as if the ice itself remembers. Every gust of wind is a whisper. Every crack of shifting glacier sounds like a door opening, then closing again. When explorers vanish into the blizzards, it is said they are claimed by the silence, their stories absorbed into the frozen vault that guards them for eternity. As the modern world advances, so too do our attempts to penetrate this silence. Satellites peer through clouds, radar pulses down into the depths. What they find only deepens the mystery. Geometric patterns beneath the ice, lines too straight, formations too precise. Nature is wild, chaotic, ever-changing, yet these shapes suggest order, purpose. Could they be illusions created by shifting glaciers? Or are they the first hints of ruins long forgotten, locked in a tomb of snow and time? The chapter of Antarctica's silence is not merely about absence. It is about presence, an overwhelming, almost sacred reminder of how small we are in the face of the unknown. For here, at the edge of the world, every footstep echoes not only across the frozen plain but across the boundaries of history and myth. Each breath of cold air feels like an initiation into a secret we are not yet prepared to understand. The silence waits, and in that waiting, it calls us deeper. To truly understand Antarctica, one must first surrender to its scale. The continent is larger than Europe, a frozen empire stretching over 5 million square miles. It is a kingdom of extremes, the coldest, driest, windiest place on Earth. Snow here does not fall in gentle flakes. It stings like shards of glass, whipped by gales that can outrun storms. Temperatures plunge so low they can freeze steel solid in moments, a realm where even breath crystallizes midair and falls as tiny ice grains to the ground. And yet, amid this brutal environment, there is beauty so fierce it borders on the surreal. The ice itself gleams with colors hidden from the rest of the world. Shades of sapphire, turquoise, and pale violet, trapped in frozen layers like an ancient stained glass cathedral. When the sun dips low, entire mountain ranges of ice burn with fire pink and orange radiance shimmering across jagged cliffs. The aurora returns in winter, draping the heavens with shifting curtains of light, as though the sky itself bends to acknowledge the mysteries below. This paradox, brutality and beauty, intertwined, is what gives Antarctica its haunting power. It is not merely a place, but an experience. To walk here is to feel both the fragility and resilience of life. A single wrong step can end in disaster. Yet fragile lichens cling to rocks, penguins march in unyielding lines, and seals sleep upon ice sheets as though the cold does not exist. Life adapts where logic says it cannot. For centuries, explorers have sought to tame this land, but Antarctica refuses to yield. Shackleton, Scott, Amundsen names carved into the annals of human courage and tragedy. Their expeditions became stories of survival, their journals written in frostbitten ink. Men who pushed forward into white nothingness, dragging sledges until their bodies failed. Some made it back, others did not. Their remains, entombed in ice, still lie somewhere beneath the drifting snows, perfectly preserved by the continent's unrelenting hand. But what drove them here? Was it the promise of discovery? The hunger to stand where no man had stood before? Or was it something deeper, a call, an unspoken pull from the silence itself? For many, Antarctica became more than geography. It was myth made manifest, a place where the line between science and legend blurred. Stories filtered back from those first voyages, whispers of structures glimpsed in storms, of stone rising where only ice should be. Some dismissed them as illusions, mirages born of exhaustion and snow blindness. Others clung to the possibility that Antarctica was not merely an empty wilderness, but a vault of secrets. And in the years that followed, maps appeared ancient, inexplicable charts that depicted the southern continent long before its official discovery. How could such knowledge exist? Who charted the unseen? Modern technology only complicates the silence further. With satellites and radar, humanity has pierced the veil, revealing mountains buried beneath ice, valleys deeper than the Grand Canyon, and lakes sealed off for millions of years. But alongside these wonders appear anomalies, geometric patterns beneath glaciers, symmetrical ridges, shadows that suggest the outline of something constructed, then hidden. Are these merely quirks of nature? Or do they point to ruins entombed beneath miles of frozen history? The silence does not answer. It simply endures. Every creak of shifting ice is a reminder that this land is alive, though not in ways we understand. The glaciers move, crawling slowly toward the sea, groaning under their own immense weight. They crack, split, and thunder with the sound of collapsing cliffs, echoing across the wide expanse like the roar of distant artillery. To witness it is to feel time itself in motion, grinding endlessly forward, swallowing all that stands in its path. And so, Antarctica becomes more than a place of absence. It becomes a question: what lies beneath this frozen shield? Are we standing above nothing more than ancient stone, or does the silence conceal a chapter of human history erased from memory? Perhaps the ruins whispered of by explorers are real. Perhaps they are illusions. The truth waits in the depths, and the silence, relentless and eternal, holds it close. There is a moment when standing on the Antarctic ice, where the world feels almost erased. No birdsong, no rustle of trees, no rush of rivers. Only the weight of emptiness stretching in every direction, as though the earth itself has drawn a curtain between this land and the rest of creation. For many, this absence becomes unsettling. For others, it becomes intoxicating, a siren song that lures explorers further into the white void. But silence does not always mean stillness. Beneath the surface, Antarctica is anything but lifeless. The continent rests upon mountains, valleys, and hidden rivers, a buried geography veiled by ice. Scientists who send radar pulses deep below have uncovered vast networks of subglacial lakes. Some of these waters have been sealed for millions of years, untouched by air, light, or life as we know it. The most famous Lake Vostok lies beneath more than 2 miles of ice. When a Russian team drilled into its surface, the world held its breath. What could possibly survive in such darkness? What secrets might be released from waters older than humanity itself? The samples brought up revealed strange microbes, organisms adapted to conditions that should defy life. They hint at ecosystems completely alien, untouched by the sun. If such worlds exist beneath our feet, could they also exist elsewhere in the universe? Could Antarctica be a mirror, reflecting what life might look like on icy moons circling distant planets? The silence, it seems, is not empty at all. It is filled with possibilities. And yet, for every discovery made by science, there are shadows that refuse to be explained away. Satellite images reveal patterns in the ice that appear too precise, too symmetrical. Straight lines, circular formations, shapes that mimic architecture more than geology. Some scientists caution against imagination. They argue that nature itself can create symmetry, that ice has ways of sculpting order from chaos. But others cannot help but wonder if these are ruins, buried so deeply they may never be uncovered. Who built them? And what cataclysm swept them away beneath this frozen shroud? The silence guards these questions fiercely. Perhaps that is why so many explorers spoke of Antarctica as though it were alive, not simply a place, but a willful force. To them, the storms felt deliberate. The blizzards that swallowed men whole seemed like sentinels. Even the shifting ice cracked with a voice that echoed through their souls. They believed the land itself resisted intrusion, as if to say, "You do not belong here." This sense of being unwelcome has never faded. Modern expeditions, armed with technology, still struggle against the continent's wrath. Machines freeze. Steel buckles. Satellites fail under the magnetic storms that dance across the skies. Human ambition falters in the face of a power so absolute, and yet we return. Again and again, drawn by the silence, compelled by the idea that something waits beneath. Some whisper of lost civilizations, swallowed whole when Antarctica shifted from green paradise to icy tomb. Others speak of cataclysms, of sudden polar shifts that buried cities in snow and erased histories from human memory. These claims live on the edge of myth, dismissed by many, yet never fully silenced. For when anomalies appear beneath the ice, when radar reveals patterns too deliberate, the imagination cannot help but stir. And so, the first chapter of our journey closes where it began, with the silence. Not an emptiness, but a presence. a presence that weighs on every step, every breath, every attempt to pierce the frozen veil. Antarctica's silence is not the silence of absence. It is the silence of guardianship. It holds what it knows close, refusing to yield its secrets, daring us to keep searching. As we leave this opening act, the question lingers. If the ice were ever to break, if the silence were ever to speak, what would it reveal? Night in Antarctica is unlike night anywhere else on Earth. It does not fall gently. It descends like a curtain, swallowing the land in months of unbroken darkness. The sun vanishes beyond the horizon, not for hours, but for entire seasons, leaving the continent under a dome of stars. The Milky Way spills across the sky in shimmering rivers, brighter than any city could ever allow. And then, the aurora awakens. Green flames ripple through the heavens. Violet arcs surge like cosmic tides. To stand here is to feel the universe breathing, its light dancing across the ice as if in silent communion with the secrets below. It is in this darkness that the silence grows most profound. Even the wind seems to quiet, replaced by the groaning of shifting glaciers. The ice is restless. Beneath its surface, rivers move unseen, carving pathways through stone, whispering of ancient times when this land was free of its frozen chains. Scientists who study the creaks and tremors speak of ice as though it were alive, grinding forward, inch by inch, shaping the land beneath. Each sound becomes a reminder that Antarctica is not static but a force of motion, a living cathedral of frozen time. Yet amid this haunting beauty, danger is constant. Step too far from camp, and the dark will consume you. Crevasses, hidden by thin crusts of snow, open like jaws beneath unsuspecting feet. Storms arrive without warning, turning the horizon into a wall of white that blinds and disorients. Even the strongest can vanish within minutes, swallowed by the blizzard and entombed in the snow. The silence shows no mercy. It keeps what it claims. Still, humanity cannot resist pressing further. Why? Perhaps it is curiosity. Perhaps it is obsession. Or perhaps it is something older, written into the marrow of our being, a need to uncover, to reveal, to stand at the edge of the unknown and demand to see beyond it. For centuries, explorers returned with fragments of wonder, fragments of terror. Some spoke of mountains that appeared where maps said none existed. Others swore they glimpsed stone rising from the ice, shapes too regular to be natural. Were they hallucinations born of frostbite and hunger? Or were they visions of something buried, revealed for moments before storms erased them once again? Modern science has not silenced these whispers. If anything, it has amplified them. Radar scans show geometric anomalies. Satellites capture images that suggest formations concealed by glaciers. Nature is wild, unpredictable, chaotic, but here, beneath Antarctica's veil, the patterns sometimes appear ordered. Too ordered, too deliberate, as if something waits. This tension between beauty and brutality, between science and myth, is the soul of Antarctica. It is not merely a continent but a threshold. To cross its ice is to step into a liminal space where history, geology, and imagination blur into one. The silence becomes a guardian, holding the truth just beyond our reach, daring us to risk everything for one more step closer. And so, the first chapter of our journey ends not with answers, but with questions. Antarctica's silence is alive. It is a voice that does not speak in words, but in absence. It calls to us through its emptiness, drawing us deeper into its frozen heart. What it hides remains locked away, but we feel it, the weight of buried time, pressing upward through the ice, waiting for the moment it will be revealed. As the darkness stretches over the horizon, and the aurora dances one final time across the frozen expanse, we are left with a truth we cannot ignore. The silence is not empty. It is full of memory, full of secrets, full of something that refuses to be forgotten. And so we must continue beyond the surface, beneath the frozen veil, into the mysteries that wait below. Beneath Antarctica's white wilderness lies another world, invisible to the eye yet immense in scale. For centuries, men thought the continent was solid, a single frozen block of ice locked onto ancient stone. But as our tools grew sharper, as satellites began to peer through the veil, a revelation emerged. Beneath the ice is not emptiness, but life. Rivers twist in total darkness, flowing for hundreds of miles. Entire lakes, sealed beneath miles of ice, remain untouched since long before human history. These are not small pockets of water. Some are larger than great inland seas, vast hidden reservoirs where time itself has stood still. Among them, Lake Vostok is the most haunting. Buried beneath more than 2 miles of ice, it is one of the largest lakes on Earth, yet no human eye has ever seen its waters directly. For millions of years, it has existed in isolation, cut off from the sky, shielded from the warmth of the sun. What thrives within such a place? Microbes that feed without sunlight? Creatures shaped by pressures no surface life could endure? Or perhaps nothing at all, a silent, sterile world preserved like a glass case of Earth's past? In the late 20th century, Russian scientists began their descent toward this abyss. It was no easy task. The ice above was ancient, layered in histories written in frost. Every drill bore not only deeper into the ice, but further into time itself. For years, they inched downward, until finally, in 2012, the team broke through. What rose up shocked them. Samples containing microbes unlike anything seen before. Some dismissed them as contaminants. Others argued they were genuine proof that life endures even in the most hostile of places. If true, the implications stretch far beyond Antarctica. For if life thrives beneath 2 miles of ice here, could it not thrive beneath the frozen oceans of Europa, the icy moons of Jupiter, or the distant worlds orbiting Saturn? Antarctica becomes a mirror, a test case for the possibility of alien existence. Beneath its frozen veil, we glimpse not just Earth's secrets, but perhaps the universe's. Yet with discovery comes unease. Radar imaging of the land below reveals more than water. Some scans display shapes too precise to dismiss ridges that align in geometric patterns, vast structures that seem almost architectural. Nature creates symmetry and form, yes. But when the lines are straight, when the angles are sharp, doubt creeps in. Could there be something buried down there, older than the ice itself? Skeptics argue these are illusions of data, distortions caused by radar's interaction with the ice. They insist geology alone can explain what we see. But the whispers grow louder. Explorers speak of anomalies, of shadows seen in storms, of shapes revealed for an instant before vanishing into snow. The scientific mind seeks order, clarity, reason, but Antarctica resists. It gives just enough to ignite our imagination, then buries the truth deeper still. The lakes themselves add to the mystery. Some remain warm, heated not by the sun, but by the Earth's hidden fire, volcanic activity far below. To know that warmth exists beneath a continent of ice is unsettling. It is a reminder that beneath the silence lies motion, energy, life. A world within a world, sealed away, protected by the frozen veil above. If these waters could speak, what stories would they tell? Would they whisper of ancient forests that once thrived here, of creatures that roamed when Antarctica was green? Would they tell us of civilizations, if any ever walked these shores before the freeze? Or would their tales stretch further still into realms of life untouched by humanity? Ecosystems that evolved in complete isolation, alien not because they came from beyond the stars, but because they grew apart from us, hidden in the dark. The deeper we go, the more questions arise. Every core of ice lifted from the depths is like a page from a forgotten book. And with each discovery, the sense grows stronger. Beneath the frozen veil, something waits. The frozen veil is more than ice. It is a threshold, a barrier between our world and one almost entirely unknown. Crossing it requires not only science but also imagination, for even the instruments we wield often return more questions than answers. In 2018, British scientists drilling into Lake Mercer, another subglacial lake buried nearly a mile beneath the ice, retrieved samples that stunned the world. They expected little more than sterile water and mineral sediment. Instead, they found traces of life, tiny carcasses of crustaceans, fragments of diatoms, the delicate skeletons of microscopic algae. How had they come to be entombed so far below? Were they remnants of an ancient ecosystem, swept beneath the ice when Antarctica froze millions of years ago? Or do they suggest that beneath these glaciers, life continues, sustained in secret? The thought unsettles and inspires in equal measure. These are not simple puddles under the ice, but vast aquatic worlds, some stretching hundreds of kilometers. Within them, the laws of evolution may have taken strange paths. Cut off from light, from air, from the rhythms of day and night, life here would not follow the same script as life above. What shapes could emerge in such isolation? Flying creatures with senses attuned to vibrations. Bacteria that feast on the minerals of stone instead of the warmth of the sun. The possibilities blur the line between science and myth. And the mysteries do not stop at biology. Beneath the glaciers, radar reveals vast caverns, some so large they could swallow skyscrapers whole. Hidden voids where the ceiling is sculpted by ice, the walls smoothed by unseen currents. These caves exist in perpetual night, their air thick with secrets. What might explorers find should they step inside? Would they encounter silence and emptiness or echoes of something older, something preserved in perfect stillness since the dawn of time? Whispers of such hidden realms have long fueled speculation. Some speak of lost valleys where the ice thins, creating microclimates sealed away for millions of years. A place where forests might still exist, green beneath the Antarctic cold. Satellite images occasionally reveal anomalies, dark patches where ice appears thinner, heat signatures rising where none should be. Some dismiss these as errors, others as geothermal activity. Yet the possibility remains. Beneath the veil, there could be pockets of Earth unspoiled, fragments of a prehistoric world waiting to be rediscovered. It is no wonder that conspiracy theories flourish in this silence. Rumors swirl of forbidden expeditions, of structures glimpsed and swiftly hidden, of discoveries too shocking to reveal. Some claim pyramids rise from beneath the snow, their peaks just visible when the ice recedes. Others insist on ancient cities entombed, relics of civilizations erased by cataclysmic change. The scientific community rightly demands evidence, hard proof. But in Antarctica, proof is elusive. The veil hides more than it reveals, and in that uncertainty, imagination runs wild. Still, the Earth itself testifies to a grander story. Core samples tell us that Antarctica was once lush, a continent of forests and rivers. Giant ferns rose beneath the light of a sun that lingered for months in the sky. Dinosaurs wandered here, and later, strange mammals adapted to the polar twilight. To know this is to understand that Antarctica has always been a land of extremes, a place where the veil shifts over time. What is buried now may one day rise again, as ice gives way to water, as continents drift and climates shift. The frozen veil is not eternal. It is a temporary shroud cast over a living world. And so the question lingers, what lies beneath that veil now? With each new drill, with each scan from satellites, we come closer to tearing a small hole in the curtain. But the vastness remains, resisting our reach. For every secret revealed, 100 more stay hidden, waiting. The frozen veil is both boundary and invitation. It dares us to descend further, to risk more, to seek truths we are not yet prepared to face. Beneath its weight, the past and future of the planet are written. And as the ice groans and shifts, we are reminded that the veil is fragile, and what it conceals may one day return to the light. The veil does not only conceal hidden waters and forgotten valleys, it also cloaks the restless heartbeat of the Earth itself. Beneath Antarctica's crust lies fire, a network of volcanoes buried under ice, some dormant, some alive. Scientists have mapped more than 100 volcanic cones hidden beneath the frozen surface, their shapes traced only by radar. Many are silent, but not all. Heat rises from below, melting the ice in secret chambers, feeding subglacial lakes, and creating currents that churn in darkness. One such volcano, Mount Erebus, is no secret. It stands above the surface, its icy slopes crowned with one of the world's few persistent lava lakes. To witness it is to see a contradiction made flesh, fire and ice in a single breath. But Erebus is just the beginning. Across the continent, far below the veil, other peaks sleep beneath the glaciers. If they were ever to stir, the consequences would be catastrophic. Imagine, for a moment, a volcano erupting under miles of ice. The blast would melt glaciers from beneath, unleashing floods capable of reshaping coastlines across the world. Yet catastrophe is not the only story these volcanoes tell. Their hidden heat may explain why some of Antarctica's lakes remain liquid, why rivers flow under the weight of endless ice. They remind us that even here, in a place defined by stillness, the planet's inner fire never ceases. The frozen veil does not silence the Earth. It masks a world in motion. But perhaps the most unsettling mysteries are not geological, but human. For decades, Antarctica has been the stage for stories that blur fact and fiction. Explorers vanish in storms that sweep without warning, swallowed by white horizons. Strange lights have been reported dancing above the ice, auroras that twist into unnatural shapes, or glows that seem to rise not from the sky, but from the ground itself. Radar sometimes returns echoes with no explanation, signals that suggest massive hollows or structures that nature alone struggles to account for. Its official purpose was to establish a research base. Yet its abrupt end, after only a few weeks, has fueled decades of speculation. Some whisper of discoveries the world was not ready to know, of strange encounters or hidden realms glimpsed and concealed. While historians dismiss such tales as exaggeration, the questions linger. Why send so many ships and men to the most desolate place on Earth? And why retreat so suddenly? The frozen veil invites these questions because it is the perfect keeper of secrets. Here, silence reigns. No permanent population exists to bear witness. The continent belongs not to any one nation, but to a treaty that declares it a land of science, free of weapons and war. Yet this very isolation means that discoveries can vanish as quickly as they appear. A research station closes, a satellite glitch erases data, and the mystery remains unsolved. What makes Antarctica so compelling is not only what lies beneath the ice, but also what it represents. The edge of human knowledge, the thin line between truth and myth. In ancient times, maps marked unknown regions with warnings, "Here be dragons." Today, we have satellites, aircraft, and ground-penetrating radar. Yet, when we look at Antarctica, the warning feels the same. Here are mysteries. Here are secrets. Here be the veil, impenetrable and cold. And so we continue to probe, to question, to send machines where humans cannot go. Each revelation deepens the enigma. Each finding confirms that the veil is not empty, but full. Full of life, full of fire, full of stories too vast for a single age to tell. Beneath its silence lies the pulse of Earth, and perhaps something more, something waiting for the day when the ice finally breaks, and the veil is torn away. The frozen veil is not static. It shifts, groans, and fractures with the weight of centuries pressing down upon it. To the human ear, Antarctica seems silent. Yet if you place sensors upon the ice, you discover a symphony hidden within. Deep vibrations ripple through the continent, the grinding of glaciers, the cracking of fissures, the faint thunder of rivers rushing unseen. These sounds are the language of a world in constant motion, its stories told not in words, but in echoes. Scientists who have listened to this subterranean music describe it as eerie, almost alive. The ice sings as winds pass across its surface. Tremors hum where no earthquake should be. Some recordings sound like distant whispers, others like drums beating in the dark. To hear them is to sense the veil not as a wall, but as a living boundary, one that breathes and shifts, guarding its secrets with a voice of its own. And within this veil, time itself seems altered. Imagine a world where day and night blur, where seasons stretch into extremes of endless light or endless dark. Beneath the ice, those rhythms vanish completely. There, time halts. Lakes sealed for millions of years hold their contents in perfect preservation. To peer inside them is to look back into Earth's distant past, to glimpse what life was when continents were young. In some ways, Antarctica is not only a place, it is a time machine, locking the past away until the moment we learn how to open it. But as we seek these truths, another question emerges. Should we? Every hole drilled, every probe sent down risks breaking a seal that is held for millions of years. Some scientists warn that in our pursuit of discovery, we may awaken ecosystems unprepared for contact or release ancient microbes that the modern world cannot withstand. The veil does not only protect its mysteries from us, it may also protect us from them. To tear it open recklessly is to gamble with consequences we cannot yet foresee. This tension between curiosity and caution defines our relationship with the frozen veil. We are drawn to its mysteries as moths are drawn to flame. Yet there is wisdom in restraint. Perhaps that is why the continent was placed beyond nations, governed not by conquest but by treaty. It is the last place on earth set aside not for war or wealth, but for knowledge. And still, knowledge itself can be perilous. Legends have always whispered of forbidden stores, of realms humans are not meant to enter. Antarctica feels like one of them. To step beyond the veil is to enter a place where our maps lose meaning, where our instruments falter, and where imagination fills the void with shapes both wondrous and terrifying. We search for microbes, for mountains, for rivers of fire. Yet perhaps what lies beneath is not meant to be categorized so easily. Perhaps the veil hides truths that cannot be reduced to data, but only experienced in awe and silence. As this chapter closes, we find ourselves standing at the threshold. Above us, the world we know, oceans, forests, cities bathed in sun. Below us, an unseen expanse of darkness, warmth, water, and whispers of forgotten time. Between them lies the veil, fragile, ancient, unbroken. The question hangs like the southern aurora across the polar night. When the veil finally tears, will we uncover wonders or unleash something we were never meant to find? Long before Antarctica was a continent of endless ice, it was alive. The land we now imagine as frozen wasteland once flourished with green valleys, flowing rivers, and forests that swayed beneath warm skies. To walk through Antarctica in its ancient past would have been to wander through a world that defies the imagination. A place where dinosaurs roamed beneath towering trees, where lush swamps mirrored those of the tropics, and where life thrived at the very bottom of the globe. Evidence of this lost world comes to us in fragments, but each fragment carries the weight of revelation. Fossils of ferns and cycads, their delicate shapes preserved in stone, tell us that this was once a temperate land. Remains of giant amphibians and reptiles hint at ecosystems rich and varied, sustained by a climate far warmer than today's. Even in the cold present, when glaciers dominate the horizon, traces of ancient forests lie entombed beneath the ice, their roots preserved as if awaiting spring. In 2017, scientists drilling through ice cores made a discovery that shocked even seasoned experts. Buried nearly a mile below, they found soil that bore the imprint of roots and pollen remnants of a rainforest that had grown here nearly years ago. Imagine that, a rainforest at the South Pole, thriving in a world where the sun did not rise for months at a time. How could such a place exist? The answer lies in the greenhouse world of the past, when Earth's atmosphere was thick with carbon dioxide, trapping warmth even at the planet's frozen edges. This revelation changes how we see Antarctica. It is not a dead land, but a land of memory, carrying echoes of life so vibrant it challenges everything we thought we knew. The continent's silence becomes deceptive, for beneath its white veil lies the fossilized chorus of millions of years. Each stone, each shard of ancient wood, speaks of a time when Antarctica was not an end, but a beginning, a cradle for species both strange and wondrous. Among the most haunting discoveries are those of creatures that once prowled these lands. Fossils of massive reptiles, cousins of the dinosaurs, suggest that Antarctica was a sanctuary for giants. Some finds point to early mammals, creatures scurrying through underbrush that no longer exists. To picture them is to imagine a continent alive with sound, the rustle of leaves in polar winds, the calls of animals across vast wetlands, the thunder of footsteps through swamps that stretched where ice now reigns. But even more mysterious are the fossils still to be found. Vast stretches of Antarctica remain unexplored, buried beneath ice sheets miles thick. What skeletons lie beneath? Could entire species remain hidden, preserved in perfect stillness, awaiting the moment when ice retreats? Each melt, each retreat of a glacier, becomes an unveiling, a glimpse of life forgotten. And with climate change reshaping the poles faster than ever, such unveilings are no longer distant speculation, but imminent reality. Yet fossils are not the only echoes of ancient life. The ice itself holds secrets in the form of microscopic clues, trapped air bubbles that preserve the atmosphere of ages past, frozen pollen that whispers of vanished forests, and chemical traces of ecosystems long gone. To study these is to open a window into time, to breathe the very air once inhaled by creatures we will never see. Antarctica's silence is an archive, and we are only beginning to turn its pages. Still, one cannot help but ask, if life flourished here once, could it still linger, hidden in some remote pocket beneath the ice? Evolution is persistent, and isolation breeds strangeness. Perhaps beneath the glaciers lie creatures that never vanished, species that adapted instead of dying, surviving in ways beyond our imagination. Such questions drive scientists deeper, drilling further, searching for the faintest whisper of life's persistence. The echoes of ancient life do not merely tell us of the past. They remind us of Earth's resilience, of its cycles of death and rebirth. They warn us, too, of fragility, for if a rainforest could once thrive here and then vanish beneath ice, what of our own civilizations? What lies in our future if the balance shifts again? Antarctica is both mirror and prophecy, showing us what was, and perhaps what will be. In its frozen silence, the voices of ancient life still linger, waiting for us to listen. If Antarctica once thrived with rainforests and rivers, then it also carried the heartbeat of creatures now lost to time. Fossils found along its coasts reveal stories that seem almost impossible. On Seymour Island, paleontologists uncovered the remains of a colossal marine reptile, a mosasaur, stretching nearly 40 feet long, its jaws filled with teeth designed for crushing prey. To think that such a beast once hunted in waters that now lie entombed in ice is to understand how radically this land has changed. But Antarctica was not merely a home for giants of the sea. It was also a nursery for species that would shape Earth's later ages. Fossilized bones of early birds have been unearthed, their wings adapted for soaring across ancient skies. In 2018, researchers uncovered the remains of a bird with a wingspan rivaling that of a small aircraft, one of the largest ever discovered. Imagine such a creature gliding above dense polar forests, its shadow sweeping across fern-lined rivers. These finds remind us that the echoes of life here were not whispers, but thunderclaps, resonating far into the future. Perhaps most evocative are the remains of mammals that once inhabited Antarctica. Small, shrew-like creatures, early ancestors of today's marsupials, scurried among roots and leaves. Their survival in such extremes demonstrates evolution's unyielding creativity. In the face of long polar nights, life adapted. Some creatures may have hibernated, others relied on rich vegetation during endless days of summer. These strategies foreshadow the resilience we see in species today, from penguins to seals, that call the continent home even in its frozen age. The land itself carries the imprint of this lost age. Beneath thick ice sheets, radar has revealed mountain ranges as vast as the Alps, valleys deeper than the Grand Canyon, and river systems that once carved their way across a thriving landscape. To imagine these valleys filled with water and life rather than ice is to reframe Antarctica not as a wasteland, but as a world transformed. Somewhere within those valleys may lie fossil beds of staggering richness, untouched and waiting for their story to be told. Yet discovery is not without peril. The ice guards its secrets jealously, and expeditions must battle storms, freezing winds, and treacherous terrain. Every fossil unearthed has been won at great cost, carried across miles of hostile ground. But the rewards are immeasurable. Each bone, each leaf imprint, is a message from a world that should not exist in such a place, and yet did. The echoes of ancient life also reach into mystery. Some researchers speculate that Antarctica may hold not just traces of dinosaurs and forests, but signs of life's endurance across cataclysmic change. When the continent shifted southward and froze, did all life perish? Or did some linger in hidden refuges, evolving in isolation beneath the ice? If microbes can survive in subglacial lakes, might more complex organisms have found a way? Evolution often takes unexpected paths. Isolation can lead to uniqueness, to species found nowhere else. What would it mean to uncover such survivors? Would they be relics of Earth's distant past, or entirely new branches of life's tree? The thought is as exhilarating as it is unsettling. To discover such creatures would be to peer not only backward into history, but also sideways, into evolutionary experiments we never knew existed. For now, we are left with fragments. The curve of a jawbone, the outline of a leaf, the whisper of pollen frozen in ice. Yet even these fragments are enough to paint a picture of astonishing beauty, a continent alive, vibrant, green. And as we uncover them, we are reminded that what seems eternal is anything but. Antarctica's silence is not permanent. It is a pause, a veil drawn over a past so extraordinary it challenges the imagination. To stand on this frozen land and hold a fossil in your hand is to feel two worlds collide, the living past and the icy present. The echoes are faint, but they resound through the ages, telling us that life has always found a way, even in the unlikeliest of places. The deeper we dig into Antarctica's past, the more it reveals not just a record of life, but a record of change. This land has endured transformations so vast they defy human scale, from thriving rainforests to icy desert, from warm inland seas to frozen tomb. Each fossil we uncover is more than a relic. It is a witness, a survivor of upheavals that reshaped the planet. One of the most striking discoveries came in the form of fossilized tree stumps found high in the Transantarctic mountains. These were not small shrubs clinging to survival, but towering trees, some over 100 feet tall, forming dense forests that stretched for miles. Their roots remain locked in stone, but their rings tell the story of survival in a world of extremes. Long summers of endless daylight followed by winters of unbroken dark. Somehow, these trees adapted, slowing their growth, storing energy, and enduring months without the sun. Their persistence speaks of evolution's ingenuity, and of a continent that once pulsed with life in ways we struggle to comprehend today. The echoes of ancient forests linger even in chemical traces buried in the ice. Layers of pollen reveal that diverse ecosystems once flourished here: rainforests in the west, coniferous forests in the interior, and flowering plants spread across the coasts. Imagine Antarctica as a patchwork of green landscapes, each adapted to the rhythms of a climate far warmer than ours. This revelation shifts our perception. Antarctica is not merely a frozen anomaly, but a land that has cycled through radical transformations, echoing the greater rhythms of Earth itself. Yet these echoes also serve as warnings. Antarctica's shift from forest to ice was not gradual alone. It was driven by global upheavals. When tectonic plates drifted and Antarctica was isolated at the bottom of the planet, ocean currents changed, trapping cold waters around the continent. Temperatures plummeted, glaciers spread, and within millions of years, a world of life was buried beneath ice. The fossils remind us of the fragility of climate and the swiftness with which life can be transformed. What once was paradise is now desert. What thrives today may vanish tomorrow. But even within its icy shroud, traces of persistence remain. Beneath the glaciers, scientists have uncovered microbes that feed not on sunlight but on minerals, carving out survival strategies in places where no other life could endure. These tiny organisms are modern echoes of the resilience that allowed forests and reptiles to once flourish here. They remind us that life is rarely erased completely. It adapts, retreats, and waits for its moment to return. There are places in Antarctica where ancient life is not only remembered, but revealed in startling clarity. On King George Island, the retreat of glaciers has exposed fossil beds filled with ammonites and belemnites, marine creatures that once swam in warm seas. Their spiraled shells lie scattered like the remnants of a forgotten beach, frozen in stone for over 100 million years. To see them now, emerging from beneath the ice, is to witness history resurfacing before our eyes. Each thawing glacier becomes an unveiling, a reminder that the veil is fragile and that the past does not remain buried forever. The echoes of ancient life stretch beyond fossils and microbes. They reverberate through human imagination, inspiring myths of hidden worlds and forgotten civilizations. If forests once grew here, if creatures once roamed these lands, then why not more? Could there have been humans here before the ice came? Science insists no, that Antarctica froze long before humanity's rise. Yet the silence, the vastness, and the fragments of forgotten ecosystems invite speculation. The line between history and legend blurs, and the echoes take on voices beyond the reach of science. Still, the greatest truth these echoes whisper is not of myth, but of continuity. Life does not vanish without leaving traces, and those traces remind us that Antarctica is not as barren as it seems. It has lived before, and in ways we can barely imagine. And in its hidden depths, in subglacial lakes and untouched valleys, perhaps life still endures, waiting for the chance to rise again. As the ice recedes in certain places, Antarctica continues to offer glimpses of its hidden chapters, fragments of a story written in stone, waiting to be read. Every fossil uncovered, every imprint of a leaf, every remnant of a shell adds another brushstroke to a vast mural of ancient life. But beyond the science, beyond the data and classifications, there is a haunting beauty in these discoveries, the realization that what we see today is but the latest mask worn by this continent. Beneath the frost lies an identity layered in time, waiting to be uncovered piece by piece. The most extraordinary of these revelations come not from the surface, but from the depths. Drilled ice cores, stretching more than 2 miles long, contain trapped air bubbles from millions of years ago. Inside them lies a record not just of temperature and atmosphere, but of life's rhythm. Tiny fragments of pollen and microbial remains ride within the frozen archives, whispering stories of forests swaying in ancient winds, of creatures wandering beneath green canopies where now there is only endless white. To hold such an ice core in hand is to hold time itself, a fragile glass filled with the breath of vanished worlds. One cannot help but wonder, if forests once thrived here, what else might remain hidden beneath? Could there be entire landscapes preserved in stasis waiting below miles of ice? Subglacial valleys stretch across Antarctica, some larger than the Grand Canyon, untouched for millions of years. If the ice were to melt, rivers would once again carve their way through forgotten forests, perhaps even releasing seeds long dormant. In that sense, Antarctica is less a graveyard than a vault, a frozen time capsule containing the memory of Earth's resilience and fragility. The echoes of ancient life also remind us of cycles and grand cycles that dwarf the span of human history. Antarctica was green before. It may be green again. Already, with warming climates, fragments of moss and lichen spread where once there was only snow. Glacial melt reveals not only fossils, but possibilities, the idea that this land, stripped bare by ice, could once again pulse with living ecosystems. Whether this rebirth would mirror its ancient forests or bring something entirely new, no one can say. But the mere thought carries both awe and warning. Earth changes, and it changes in ways that will not wait for us to catch up. Yet amidst all this science, there is poetry. Standing before a fossilized tree stump in the frozen winds, one feels less like a scientist and more like a pilgrim before a shrine. These remnants are sacred not in a religious sense, but in what they reveal: that life finds a way, that worlds can rise and fall, that nothing is permanent except change itself. To look upon the spiral of an ammonite shell or the delicate imprint of a fern is to see continuity, a thread connecting us to a world that lived, loved, and perished long before our time. And so, Antarctica becomes more than a frozen desert. It is a cathedral of memory, its icy walls hiding the echoes of an ancient choir. Each discovery is a note, resonating across the ages, reminding us that the past is never truly gone. It lingers, waiting, whispering, calling us to listen. The echoes of ancient life are not silent. They speak to us in stone and ice, in fossils and pollen, in microbes and minerals. They tell us of forests that danced beneath endless daylight, of seas teeming with life where now there is only stillness. They tell us of transformation. The paradise can become desert, and desert may yet return to paradise. As we step back from these revelations, one truth rises above all. Antarctica is alive, even in its silence. Its story is not finished, and in its echoes, we may find not only the memory of life long gone, but a warning and a promise that the future, too, will one day be written in ice. Beneath Antarctica's blinding surface, below the glaciers and frozen seas, lies a world unseen by human eyes for millions of years. It is a realm of darkness and silence, where ice stretches downward for miles, pressing against valleys, rivers, and entire mountain ranges long hidden from the sky. This world, though concealed, is anything but empty. In its frozen chambers, there exist secrets so profound they challenge our understanding of life itself. The first glimpses into this underworld came not from explorers on foot, but from instruments piercing through the ice. Radar waves bounce back signals of massive landscapes beneath the sheet mountains taller than the Alps, valleys deeper than the Grand Canyon, rivers flowing in perpetual darkness. To imagine such vastness hidden beneath the silence of snow is to feel the earth itself keeping secrets, locked away like treasures in a vault of ice. Among the most astonishing discoveries are the subglacial lake's vast reservoirs of liquid water, sealed off beneath miles of ice. Some, like Lake Vostok, have been isolated for over 15 million years. These waters have never felt the sun, never mingled with the ocean, never known human presence until the drills touched their surface. What might lurk within them? Scientists speculate microbes, unique to these hidden worlds, evolving in ways unseen anywhere else on Earth. Each droplet is a potential message from a realm untouched by time. The darkness beneath Antarctica is not lifeless, but it is alien. Without sunlight, organisms cannot depend on photosynthesis, the process that sustains most life on Earth. Instead, they turn to the minerals of rock, the faint chemical whispers of geothermal vents, and the trace gases dissolved in water. Entire ecosystems may thrive in these hidden waters, invisible yet vibrant, following rules foreign to our sunlit world. If life can persist here, it strengthens the belief that life may endure in the hidden oceans of other worlds beneath the ice of Europa or in the frozen seas of Enceladus. Antarctica becomes, in this way, not just a window to our past, but a mirror for the cosmos. Yet, accessing these lakes is no simple feat. To reach them, scientists must drill through miles of unforgiving ice without contaminating the untouched water below. The effort is painstaking and the risks immense. But the reward, the chance to uncover life that has evolved in total isolation, drives them forward. When samples are drawn, they are not just droplets of water. They are whispers from a lost chapter of Earth's story, held safe in the dark. And it is not only lakes that lie beneath the ice. There are rivers, vast networks of liquid water flowing unseen, connecting these hidden lakes like veins of a secret circulatory system. They carry heat, minerals, and perhaps even life across the continent's frozen underside. The thought is staggering. Beneath the most desolate surface on Earth exists a concealed hydrological world, larger than many of the rivers and lakes we know above ground. In these hidden rivers and lakes lies a paradox. They are both a sanctuary and a time capsule. A sanctuary because they shelter life from the brutal cold and shifting climates above. A time capsule because they preserve conditions unchanged for millions of years. To open them is to open history itself, to peer into a world older than humanity, untouched since before we first stood upright. But there is another layer to this mystery. If lakes and rivers exist beneath Antarctica, could there be entire ecosystems trapped in caverns, pockets of air, or geothermal chambers? Recent discoveries hinted vast voids beneath the ice caves warmed by volcanic heat, places where liquid water pools and strange microbes cling to survival. In these places, the line between science and speculation blurs. Could larger organisms exist in these pockets? Fish? Crustaceans? Entire food chains hidden from the sun? The deeper we venture into Antarctica's hidden world, the more it feels like a paradoxical place, both lifeless desert and thriving cradle, frozen silence and hidden symphony. Each discovery challenges our assumptions, forcing us to ask not only what lies beneath the ice, but what it means for life, resilience, and the mysteries still waiting in the dark. The first time scientists lowered their instruments into Lake Willans, a subglacial lake buried beneath nearly half a mile of ice, the world held its breath. What they found was astonishing. The water was not sterile, not silent. It was alive. Microscopic organisms swam in the samples, feeding on iron, sulfur, and other minerals scraped from the bedrock below. These microbes had never seen sunlight, yet they thrived in total darkness, proving that life could exist in conditions more alien than most of us can imagine. For decades, many had assumed Antarctica's depths were barren, too hostile to sustain even the simplest forms of life. But with every drill, with every carefully preserved sample, the opposite becomes more clear. Beneath the continent lies an underground biosphere, one so vast, so hidden, that it could rival the ecosystems of entire surface regions. Imagine a secret Earth within our Earth, humming with quiet persistence beneath the silence of ice. Some lakes stretch for hundreds of miles, holding more water than the Great Lakes of North America. Others are shallow, mineral-rich, locked away in valleys that may never have felt the light of the sun. In these waters, life adapts to extremes we thought impossible. Without photosynthesis, organisms rely on geosynthesis, extracting energy from minerals leached by melting glaciers and geothermal processes. These ecosystems are fragile yet enduring, proof that life does not bow easily to hardship. The implications ripple outward far beyond Antarctica. If life can thrive in complete darkness, feeding on stone and chemistry, then perhaps the same is true elsewhere. Beneath the frozen crust of Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, lies a massive ocean hidden beneath miles of ice. Could it too harbor microbial life, or even something larger? Antarctica becomes a living laboratory, a testing ground for questions that stretch to the stars. But with discovery comes responsibility. To probe these hidden lakes and rivers requires delicate precision. A single drop of foreign bacteria could alter an ecosystem preserved in isolation for millions of years. Scientists must use sterile drills, clean rooms, and extreme caution to prevent contamination. The challenge is immense not only to reach these places, but to respect them, to treat them as sacred vaults of Earth's history. And then there are the caves, strange volcanic heated chambers carved beneath glaciers. On Mount Erebus, Antarctica's most active volcano, steam rising through ice has created vast subterranean caverns, some large enough to house entire cathedrals of crystal. Temperatures inside remain far warmer than the frozen world above, and walls of ice glow with ethereal blue light. Air circulates freely through vents, carrying with it traces of DNA fragments from algae, fungi, and microbes. These are signs that hidden ecosystems may be thriving in the warmth of volcanic caves, a bizarre oasis concealed beneath the coldest continent on Earth. It is almost paradoxical. In the most inhospitable place on Earth, there exist pockets where life might not only survive, but flourish. These hidden worlds remind us of nature's persistence, its refusal to surrender, even in the face of overwhelming odds. They are reminders that life is not fragile, but fiercely inventive, adapting to places we once thought impossible. Yet mystery lingers. What if there is more than microbes? What if these lakes, rivers, and caves shelter species we have yet to imagine? Fish adapted to pitch-black waters? Crustaceans feeding on mineral blooms? Creatures whose biology rewrites our understanding of evolution. No evidence has yet proven such things exist, but the possibility is enough to stir the imagination. The silence beneath the ice could conceal entire food webs, waiting only for us to listen. Antarctica's hidden worlds call us deeper, further into realms where science meets wonder. Each discovery is a fragment of a larger truth, that beneath the ice lies a living universe, isolated yet connected, fragile yet enduring. And with each core sample, each DNA trace, we draw closer to realizing that the greatest mysteries of Earth are not in the stars above, but in the darkness beneath our feet. The deeper we peer into Antarctica's frozen vaults, the clearer it becomes that what lies beneath is not simply a curiosity, but an entire hidden system shaping the fate of the continent above. These rivers, lakes, and caverns are not isolated pockets, but part of a dynamic network moving, shifting, and quietly influencing the very ice that conceals them. To understand Antarctica's hidden worlds is to understand the pulse of the continent itself. One revelation that stunned researchers was the discovery of subglacial rivers spanning hundreds of miles, connecting lakes like secret arteries beneath the ice sheet. These rivers are not still. They flow with force, carving channels and lubricating glaciers from below. The speed at which ice moves, the way glaciers surge into the ocean, even the rise of sea levels across the world, all are tied to these invisible waterways. Antarctica's underworld is not passive. It is alive with motion, power, and consequence. Take, for instance, the discovery of a river system beneath the West Antarctic ice sheet, stretching for nearly 300 miles longer than the Thames. This river carries meltwater from the heart of the ice toward the sea, unseen yet potent, influencing how fast the ice above it flows. Such discoveries remind us that the continent is not frozen solid, but hollowed by liquid paths, quietly guiding the rhythms of ice and ocean. In these rivers, as in the lakes, scientists find life's fingerprints. Microbial communities cling to minerals, feasting on chemical reactions in places untouched by light. Some microbes survive on methane or hydrogen, gases produced by geological processes deep below. Others cycle nutrients in ways that echo the earliest forms of life on Earth. By studying them, we peer not only into Antarctica's secrets, but into the possible origins of life itself. The most haunting thought is this: what if beneath the ice lies not only the story of our planet's past, but also its future? As climate warms and ice retreats, these rivers and lakes may rise to the surface, releasing their ancient contents. Some of that release could mean nutrients and microbes spilling into the oceans, sparking unknown changes in ecosystems. Others fear the release of dormant pathogens, sealed away for millions of years. Whether gift or danger, these hidden waters are a reminder that the ice is not eternal. One day, its secrets will emerge. And then there are the caverns, vast voids beneath the glaciers where heat and ice interact in strange harmony. Some of these spaces are so large that they could swallow skyscrapers whole. Beneath the Ross ice shelf, scientists uncovered a cavern more than 600 feet high, with rivers of water flowing beneath its ceiling of ice. To stand within such a place, if it were possible, would be to enter a cathedral of darkness, where the walls glow with blue ice and the sound of flowing water echoes like a hidden hymn. These caverns are not empty, either. They carry nutrients from the ocean, circulating them into the frozen interior, perhaps sustaining life where none should exist. It is easy, standing in the cold winds above, to see Antarctica as still, frozen, lifeless. But the truth beneath defies this illusion. The continent is a paradox: silence above, motion below, emptiness on the surface, potential abundance beneath. Antarctica holds two faces: one we see, barren and cold, and one we cannot, vibrant and concealed. Every expedition drills deeper, every probe uncovers more, yet the mystery only expands. The hidden worlds beneath Antarctica are not just scientific wonders. They are symbols of the unknown itself, reminders that even on our own planet, with satellites scanning every inch of its surface, there remain realms of darkness untouched by human eyes. Perhaps this is why they capture our imagination so powerfully. We are explorers by nature, and these hidden worlds call to us like whispers from beneath the ice. Come, see what waits in the dark. The more we learn of Antarctica's hidden depths, the more it feels like a world turned upside down, an entire continent with its heart concealed in darkness. If we could drain the ice away in an instant, what would we see? Towering mountain ranges, vast canyons, sprawling river systems, and lakes larger than entire countries, all locked in silence beneath the frozen shell. Antarctica, stripped bare, would reveal a secret Earth, a shadow continent that few can even imagine. Among the most enigmatic of these discoveries is Lake Vostok, buried beneath more than 2 miles of ice. It is one of the largest freshwater lakes on the planet, as vast as Lake Ontario, yet sealed off for at least 15 million years. No sunlight penetrates its waters, no wind-stirred surface. To open its vault is to touch an ecosystem isolated since the age of mammoths and saber-toothed cats. When scientists first breached its icy ceiling, the samples they drew hinted at microbial DNA, evidence that even here, in a place untouched by time, life might endure. What forms it has taken, what adaptations it has forged in its lonely exile, remains a question as haunting as it is thrilling. But Lake Vostok is not alone. More than 400 subglacial lakes have been identified across Antarctica, each a world unto itself. Some may be interconnected by vast rivers, others entirely sealed and self-sustaining. Imagine the diversity of hidden biospheres, each evolving in solitude shaped by pressures, minerals, and darkness. These are not merely lakes. They are potential laboratories of evolution, untouched by human hands. If such organisms can thrive here, what else might be hiding in these strange oases? It is a reminder that even in the harshest deserts, life finds sanctuary. Antarctica's hidden worlds force us to reimagine the boundaries of possibility. Life, it seems, does not demand comfort. It demands only opportunity. Whether clinging to minerals, swimming in black lakes, or feeding on gases in volcanic chambers, it adapts with unyielding creativity. And if it can thrive here, in a realm so far removed from sunlight, why not beyond Earth? Perhaps Europa's ocean, sealed beneath ice, teems with microbial life not so different from the organisms found beneath Antarctica. Perhaps Enceladus, with its geysers spraying into space, hides ecosystems in its depths, waiting for explorers of another age to discover them. Yet as we marvel at these hidden worlds, there is also unease. The ice is melting. Climate change accelerates, glaciers retreat, and rivers beneath the ice surge faster. What has remained sealed for millions of years may soon be exposed to the open air. Ancient microbes may awaken, spreading into oceans unprepared for their presence. Rivers once locked in darkness may alter global sea levels. Antarctica's secrets are no longer entirely safe in their icy tombs. Still, there is wonder in knowing that such places exist. Hidden rivers flowing unseen, caverns glowing in secret light, lakes the size of nations buried in stillness, all reminders that Earth holds mysteries deeper than we often allow ourselves to believe. The surface may be mapped, the mountains climbed, the seas charted, but beneath Antarctica's ice, the unknown still thrives. In the end, these hidden worlds are not only about what lies beneath the ice. They are about our hunger to know, to see, to understand. They are about the thrill of discovery, the humility of realizing that even here, on our own planet, there are realms beyond our grasp. Antarctica whispers to us from beneath its frozen mask. There is more. Always more. Antarctica has always been a land of paradox. It is the most desolate of continents, yet it holds more fresh water than all the rivers and lakes of the world combined. It is the coldest place on Earth, yet beneath its ice flows liquid water warmed by geothermal heat. It is barren on its surface, yet it shelters hidden ecosystems thriving in silence. For centuries, it has guarded its mysteries, but now, as our world changes, its veil of secrecy begins to thin. The question is no longer what Antarctica has hidden in its past, but what it holds for our future. The continent's fate is inseparable from our own. Antarctica is the beating heart of the Earth's climate, driving ocean currents, regulating global temperatures, and storing ice that, if melted, could raise sea levels by hundreds of feet. Every crack in its glaciers, every surge of its rivers, every subtle shift in its winds is a signal, a warning of what is to come. The secrets buried in its depths may not remain silent for long. Already, we are seeing the first signs of change. Glaciers that once seemed immovable are retreating. Ice shelves the size of cities splinter and collapse into the sea. Meltwater rivers rush across the surface, carving pathways into the depths below. Antarctica is no longer a frozen constant. It is a landscape in motion, a giant awakening after millennia of stillness. What will this awakening reveal? Scientists predict that as the ice retreats, more of the continent's hidden world will be exposed. Subglacial valleys, once entombed, may open to the air for the first time in millions of years. Ancient lakes could spill their waters into the ocean, releasing nutrients and perhaps microbes that have been sealed away since long before humanity walked the earth. Fossils preserved in stone may reappear, telling stories of rainforests, dinosaurs, and worlds long gone. Antarctica's future may be a flood of revelations, a slow unrolling of history into the present. But with revelation comes danger. Climate change not only threatens to release Antarctica's secrets, but to reshape the balance of the entire planet. Rising seas could swallow coastlines, displacing millions. Shifts in ocean currents could alter weather patterns across the globe. And the release of ancient organisms, dormant in the ice, could spark challenges we are unprepared to face. Some may bring new understandings of biology and resilience. Others could bring risks that echo pandemics of the past. The line between discovery and danger has never been thinner. Yet even in this uncertainty, Antarctica represents opportunity. As nations send expeditions deeper into its interior, they are not only searching for signs of life, but also for answers to humanity's most pressing questions. How quickly will our climate change? What lessons does Earth's past hold for our future? And perhaps most profoundly, how far can life endure in the face of extremes? The frozen continent has become a stage where science, exploration, and imagination converge. Some see it as a natural laboratory, a proving ground for technologies that might one day take us to other planets. Others see it as the final frontier of Earth itself, the last vast wilderness where the unknown still reigns supreme. In both visions, Antarctica is more than ice. It is a possibility. As we stand at the threshold of its future, one truth is clear. Antarctica will not remain silent. Its glaciers are speaking, its rivers are flowing, its secrets are rising to the surface. And with every shift, we are reminded that our world is not fixed but fragile, not timeless but ever-changing. The frozen frontier is not only a place of mystery, but a mirror reflecting back to us the choices we make, the paths we take, and the world we will leave behind. The struggle for Antarctica's future is not just a battle of ice and climate. It is also a story of human ambition, curiosity, and restraint. Unlike every other continent, Antarctica belongs to no single nation. Its vastness is governed by the Antarctic Treaty, a fragile pact signed in 1959 that declares the land a place of peace, science, and cooperation. No weapons, no mining, no territorial claims are allowed. In theory, Antarctica is the only continent reserved for knowledge alone. But how long can this sanctuary endure? The pressures are growing. Beneath the ice lie untapped reserves of minerals, oil, and gas resources that could tempt nations in a world increasingly hungry for energy and wealth. For now, the treaty holds, protecting the frozen frontier from exploitation. Yet treaties are human inventions, and humans are not always faithful to promises. If the ice continues to retreat, exposing more of the continent, the lure of resources may become irresistible. The question is not only what secrets Antarctica hides, but whether humanity will seek to preserve them or consume them. Even now, scientists walk a delicate line. Every drill into a subglacial lake, every core sample pulled from the ice, risks disturbing ecosystems untouched for millions of years. The more we discover, the more we must weigh our thirst for knowledge against the responsibility of stewardship. Should we awaken ancient microbes sealed in the dark, or let them remain in silence? Should we explore every cavern, or allow mystery in its space? Antarctica forces us to confront not only scientific questions, but ethical ones. And yet, the discoveries continue. Satellites peer through ice, mapping the hidden rivers and mountains below. Autonomous robots glide beneath shelves of floating ice, recording footage of worlds no human eye has seen. Every year, new valleys are charted, new caves uncovered, new traces of life revealed. The continent seems determined to remind us that no matter how much we learn, there will always be more. It is a place that resists finality, a riddle with no last page. But perhaps the greatest secret of Antarctica's future lies not in its geology or biology, but in its role as Earth's last wilderness. In a world reshaped by human hands, where cities sprawl, forests shrink, and oceans choke with plastic, Antarctica remains a vast expanse of untouched beauty. Its silence is not emptiness but purity, a reminder of what the Earth once was and might yet be again. To protect, it is to protect not only a place, but the possibility that some corners of the Earth can remain wild, unclaimed, and free. For future generations, Antarctica may become more than a scientific frontier. It may become a pilgrimage site, a reminder of humility. To stand on its frozen plains is to feel small, to realize that there are forces far greater than human will. Its winds strip away arrogance, its silence dissolves noise, its vastness humbles the soul. The final secret of Antarctica may be spiritual, that in protecting this land, we are protecting something within ourselves. And so, as the world watches the ice recede, as nations debate and scientists explore, Antarctica waits. Its secrets are patient. Some will be revealed by melting ice, others by careful exploration, and some perhaps never at all. But the future of this continent, whether as a sanctuary of wonder or a battlefield of ambition, will be decided, not by the ice itself, but by us. Antarctica is the last untouched frontier, the mirror of our planet's fragility, the keeper of mysteries yet to come. Whether those mysteries will be uncovered with reverence or stripped away in greed will define not only the future of the frozen continent, but the future of humanity itself. Antarctica has always existed in the human imagination as both a dream and a warning. For centuries, explorers risked their lives to touch its frozen edge, chasing glory or knowledge across a sea of storms. Many never returned. Those who did carried back stories of endless white horizons, alien winds, and the humbling scale of nature itself. Today, we stand on the shoulders of their sacrifice, but the dream remains unfinished. For all we have uncovered, Antarctica is still a land of questions. The scientific stations scattered across its ice are outposts of human determination. From McMurdo to Concordia, scientists endure months of darkness, bone-deep cold, and crushing isolation to learn what this continent can teach. They measure shifting glaciers, record the breathing of ancient ice, and watch the stars through an atmosphere so clear it feels otherworldly. Their work is a testament to human resilience, yet it is also fragile. Each station relies on fragile supply lines stretched across oceans, vulnerable to storms and changing ice. The very act of studying Antarctica is a reminder of our dependence on forces larger than ourselves. Beyond science lies another kind of exploration, the search for meaning. What does it mean that the Earth hides entire mountain ranges beneath its skin of ice? What does it mean that creatures thrive in waters as dark as space, surviving without sunlight? Every discovery made in Antarctica reshapes our understanding not only of this continent, but of life itself. It reminds us that the story of Earth is far older and stranger than the story of humanity. Yet the continent's future will not be written by nature alone. It will be shaped by choices. Will we defend the treaty that protects Antarctica from exploitation, or we let ambition fracture it? Will we treat the melting ice as a warning to change our ways, or as an invitation to dig deeper, claim more, consume what has been preserved for eons? The path we choose will echo far beyond the ice. It will reveal whether humanity is capable of restraint in the face of temptation. Perhaps Antarctica's greatest lesson is that survival demands balance. The ice has endured countless cycles of advance and retreat, but it has always restored itself in time. Now, for the first time, its fate is tied to ours. The decisions we make in the coming decades about energy, consumption, and preservation will decide whether Antarctica remains a realm of frozen wonder or becomes another scar on a wounded planet. Still, there is hope. For every scientist who braves the cold, for every treaty signed in defense of peace, for every voice that calls for preservation, the dream of Antarctica survives, its future does not have to be one of loss. It can be a story of restraint, reverence, and resilience, proof that humanity can protect what it cannot replace. And so, the final secret of Antarctica may be this: the continent is not waiting for us to conquer it. It is waiting for us to listen, to hear the whispers of the wind across its plains, to feel the slow heartbeat of its glaciers, to recognize that some places on Earth are not meant to be claimed, but cherished. Antarctica will outlast us. Long after our cities have risen and fallen, long after our maps have faded, the ice will remain in some form, silent and eternal. The question is whether we will leave it diminished or preserved, whether we will be remembered as the species that destroyed its last untouched frontier, or the one that finally learned how to protect it. The frozen continent does not give easy answers. It offers questions, reflections, and mirrors. In its silence, it challenges us to think not about what we can take, but what we can give. Its final frontier is not beneath the ice or hidden in the abyss. Its final frontier lies within us, in the choices we make, in the future we dare to shape. The story of Antarctica does not end in discovery. It ends and begins again in silence. The kind of silence that stretches wider than oceans, deeper than words, older than history itself. There is a silence carved by winds, sculpted by snow, and preserved in the ancient stillness of ice. To stand upon Antarctica is to stand before eternity. We have traveled far through its mysteries. Frozen ruins buried beneath miles of snow, lakes locked away for millions of years, creatures thriving in the abyssal dark, and mountains hidden beneath glaciers taller than skyscrapers. Each revelation is staggering, yet each feels like only the beginning. For Antarctica, more than any other place on Earth, teaches us that wonder has no limit. Beneath every answer lies another question. Beyond every horizon, another secret waits. But this frozen kingdom is not eternal in its present form. The ice is melting. The world is warming. Rivers of water carve through ancient glaciers, sending echoes of collapse across oceans. What melts here does not stay here. It floods coastlines, reshapes cities, and alters the balance of life thousands of miles away. Antarctica is not an isolated frontier. It is the heart of Earth's climate, a mirror of our fragility. To ignore its warning is to ignore the voice of the planet itself. And so, the closing chapter of Antarctica's story belongs not to the ice, but to us. We decide what future the white continent will have. We decide if it remains a sanctuary of peace, a beacon of science, and a temple of mystery, or if it becomes another battlefield of ambition, another scar of human greed. The ice is patient, but our time is not. Yet, hope endures in every step we take toward preservation. Hope endures in the Antarctic Treaty, fragile though it may be. Hope endures in scientists who brave the endless night, not for wealth, not for conquest, but for knowledge. Hope endures in the voices of those who believe that some places must remain untouched, that some mysteries must be preserved, that not all frontiers are meant to be conquered. Perhaps the true secret of Antarctica is not buried beneath its ice at all. Perhaps it lies within us in our capacity for awe, humility, and protection. To gaze upon its vast white horizons is to be reminded that we are not masters of the earth, but guests. Temporary, fragile, fleeting. The ice does not need us, but we need the ice. And so, as we close this journey, imagine standing upon the frozen plateau at the edge of the world. The sky above is endless. The wind howls, ancient and eternal. The ice beneath your feet stretches farther than the eye can see, a sea of white that holds the memory of millions of years. In this place, you feel both small and infinite. You understand at last that the final frontier of Antarctica is not a place, but a choice. The choice to protect what cannot be replaced. The choice to honor what is greater than ourselves. The choice to leave behind not footprints of conquest, but footprints of respect. The ice waits, the secrets wait, and the future waits. What story will we write upon the last untouched continent? Only time and humanity will tell. The first impression of Antarctica is silence. A silence so vast, so consuming, it feels alive. Yet beneath that silence lies motion. Winds that never rest, glaciers that creep and shift, oceans that roar beneath the ice. And within this hidden movement, life endures. It is easy to imagine Antarctica as a dead continent, a world too cold, too empty for survival. But such thoughts vanish when the curtain of ice is drawn back, revealing a kingdom where life has adapted to the impossible. This is not a wasteland. It is a sanctuary of resilience, a living legacy carved into the bones of Earth's last frontier. The first guardians of this frozen kingdom are the penguins. From afar, they may appear comical, shuffling across the ice in clustered parades. But step closer, and their existence becomes nothing less than miraculous. Emperor penguins, the largest of their kind, endure the brutal Antarctic winter when nearly every other living creature flees. In the heart of endless night, when temperatures plunge to minus 60 degrees Celsius and winds slice across the plains at hurricane strength, these birds remain. They huddle in vast circles, their bodies pressed together, each penguin taking turns at the edge to shield the others from the cold. In the center of the huddle, eggs rest balanced on their father's feet, shielded from the deadly frost. For months, these fragile lives depend entirely on the discipline of the colony. In the stillness of the Antarctic dark, life survives through unity, patience, and sacrifice. Along the coasts, another guardian thrives: the seals. Weddell seals, with eyes like black mirrors, cut through the freezing waters with ease. Their thick layers of blubber protect them from temperatures that would kill a human in minutes. These seals carve breathing holes into the sea ice using their teeth, returning again and again to keep their lifelines open. They dive deep, vanishing into waters where light never reaches, hunting fish, squid, and unseen prey that lurk in the abyss. Their existence is a reminder that Antarctica is not barren but alive, its seas overflowing with abundance. To watch a seal rise from a crack in the ice, steam curling from its nostrils, is to witness an animal perfectly in tune with a land of extremes. Yet the true heart of Antarctic life lies deeper still, beneath the frozen surface of its oceans. The Southern Ocean, swirling around the continent, is one of the richest marine ecosystems on the planet. Tiny krill shrimp-like creatures, no longer than a finger, gather here in clouds so vast they can be seen from space. They are the foundation of the Antarctic food web, feeding whales, seals, penguins, and seabirds. Without krill, the chain of life collapses. And yet, despite their smallness, they endure in one of the harshest climates on Earth, forming the quiet heartbeat of an ecosystem that stretches across oceans. The giants who follow them are legendary. Blue whales, the largest animals ever to live on Earth, migrate through Antarctic waters to feed on krill. In a single day, a blue whale can consume 4 tons of these tiny creatures, its enormous jaws straining thousands of gallons of seawater with every gulp. To see a blue whale rise from the icy sea, its back glistening in the weak Antarctic sun, is to witness the unimaginable scale of life supported by this frozen land. Here, at the bottom of the world, life flourishes in contrasts, the smallest creatures sustaining the largest, the darkest seas sheltering the brightest wonders. Above, the skies are ruled by birds who seem to belong more to the sea than the air. Albatrosses, with wingspans wider than a man is tall, glide endlessly over Antarctic waters. They travel for weeks without touching land, harnessing the wind in a dance of effortless flight. Their presence is both graceful and haunting, as if they are spirits watching over the frozen frontier. For centuries, sailors believed the albatross carried the souls of the lost, guiding ships through storms. In Antarctica, Their watch continues, timeless and eternal. But life here is fragile. The same changes that melt glaciers also threaten the guardians who endure this land. As ice shelves collapse, penguins lose the platforms where they breed. As ocean currents shift, krill populations decline, leaving whales and seals with less to sustain them. Even the albatross suffers, tangled in fishing lines far from the continent where it was born. The living legacy of Antarctica is not invincible. It is a delicate balance, one that depends on the preservation of the very ice and sea that define this world. And so, these guardians, penguins, seals, whales, krill, birds do not exist only for themselves. They exist as reminders of resilience, as symbols of what it means to endure. They remind us that survival is not conquest but adaptation, not domination but balance. Antarctica's creatures are teachers, whispering truths we have too often forgotten. In their patience, in their unity, in their ability to thrive in a land of extremes, they reveal the wisdom of life itself. To walk among them, to hear the cries of penguins echo across the ice, to watch a whale breach through frozen seas, to see an albatross vanish into the horizon is to feel the pulse of a continent that is alive, eternal, and unyielding. Antarctica is not empty. It is guarded. Its guardians are not human, but they hold lessons for us all. And as the world changes, as the ice melts and the seas rise, these guardians stand at the threshold of the future. Will they endure, or will their voices fall silent? The answer will not be written in the ice alone, but in our choices, our actions, our will to protect what cannot be replaced. If the creatures of Antarctica are its guardians, then the ice itself is their fortress, a shifting palace that both shelters and challenges all who call it home. It is a paradoxical kingdom, merciless in its cruelty, yet generous in its offerings. Within this fortress of ice, life has written its story in quiet, fragile lines. To understand Antarctica's living legacy, we must look not only at the animals, but at the hidden systems that sustain them. Systems so intricate and interdependent that even the smallest disturbance ripples across the entire frozen continent. Beneath the vast shelves of ice, in waters where sunlight cannot reach, strange ecosystems bloom. Here, hydrothermal vents release plumes of superheated minerals, creating islands of warmth in the otherwise frigid abyss. Around these vents thrive bizarre creatures, ghostly fish with antifreeze proteins in their blood, translucent invertebrates, and starfish with more arms than the imagination can grasp. They live in a world of eternal night, dependent not on sunlight, but on the chemistry of the earth itself. This is survival redefined, life thriving in places where by all logic it should not exist. On the underside of sea ice, algae grow in delicate, crystalline sheets. These microscopic plants are invisible to the naked eye, yet they form the foundation of the Antarctic food web. In spring, when the ice thins and light filters through, algae burst into life, feeding swarms of krill that dead, in turn, sustain seals, penguins, and whales. One might dismiss them as insignificant, but without these microscopic guardians, the entire ecosystem would collapse. They are proof that in Antarctica, the smallest life forms often carry the greatest weight. Moving upward from the unseen depths, we encounter creatures that defy imagination. Icefish, pale and nearly transparent, glide through sub-zero waters. Their blood carries no hemoglobin, making it clear as glass, an adaptation that allows them to absorb oxygen directly from the icy water. These fish are living experiments in survival, their very bodies sculpted by the demands of this land. To look at them is to see nature's ingenuity revealed in its purest form. And then, there are the giants. Orcas, the apex predators of the Southern Ocean, patrol the icy waters with intelligence and precision. They hunt in coordinated groups, circling seals resting on ice floes, sending waves to wash them into the sea. Each movement is practiced, deliberate, a strategy handed down through generations. Their black and white forms cut through the water like shadows, symbols of both power and elegance. They are guardians not only of their families, but of the delicate balance of the ecosystem itself. Yet, for all their strength, even the giants are vulnerable. Rising ocean temperatures shift the distribution of prey, forcing whales and orcas to travel farther, hunt longer, and risk starvation. Shrinking sea ice reduces the platforms that seals and penguins depend on for breeding. The fortress of ice is changing, and its guardians are being tested as never before. In the heart of Antarctica, life is not only a battle for survival, but a story of adaptation. Each creature, from the microscopic algae to the immense blue whale, has carved its place in a system of balance. Remove one, and the system falters. Alter the conditions, and the system strains. The web of life here is as intricate as frost spreading across a window, fragile, beautiful, and easily shattered. But perhaps what makes Antarctica's living legacy most extraordinary is not merely its survival against odds, but its endurance over time. Fossils buried deep in the rock tell us that millions of years ago, Antarctica was lush with forests, teeming with reptiles and amphibians. When the climate shifted, when the continent froze, life did not disappear entirely. It changed. It adapted. It endured. What survives today are descendants of that resilience, proof that even in the harshest transformations, life finds a way to persist. There is, however, an unspoken truth. The resilience of life has limits. While penguins may huddle against the cold, they cannot huddle against a vanishing ice shelf. While krill may swarm in the billions, they cannot swarm in seas stripped of their algae. While whales may migrate vast distances, they cannot migrate beyond extinction. Antarctica's legacy is not infinite. Its guardians need protection, and their survival depends not only on their own strength, but on the choices humanity makes far beyond these frozen shores. And so, the story of Antarctica's guardians becomes a mirror. It reflects back upon us the question, can we adapt as they have? Can we learn the lessons of balance, unity, and endurance? Or will we continue down a path where our choices unravel the web of life that has endured for millions of years? To witness the living legacy of Antarctica is to be reminded that every creature, no matter how small or strange, has a place in the great design of Earth. To protect them is not only to preserve their survival, but to preserve our own. For in the collapse of Antarctica's ecosystem lies a warning. If the guardians fall, so too may we. At first glance, Antarctica seems like a land removed from time, a continent that exists outside the ordinary rhythm of life. Yet, its guardians remind us that time flows here too, slowly, harshly, and without mercy. The survival of these creatures is not only about enduring the present, but about navigating a future that grows more uncertain with every passing year. One of the most striking examples of this struggle lies with the Adelie penguin. For millennia, their colonies have flourished along the icy coasts, their lives synchronized with the seasonal rhythms of ice and sea. When the summer sun returns, the ice retreats just enough to expose rocky ground for nesting and open water for feeding. Parents take turns diving for krill while guarding chicks from predators, their cries echoing across the cliffs. Yet, as warming reshapes the continent, the balance falters. In regions where sea ice vanishes too quickly, Adelie colonies collapse. The penguins, once symbols of endurance, now march toward decline in places they once dominated. To watch an abandoned rookery, littered with empty nests, is to witness not only loss, but the fragility of life's clock in this frozen land. Still, not all change is despair. Some species adapt with remarkable resilience. Gentoo penguins, for instance, have begun to expand their range southward, moving into areas once dominated solely by adelies. Unlike their cousins, gentoos are less dependent on sea ice and more versatile in their diet. They feast not only on krill, but but also on fish and squid, their adaptability giving them an edge in a changing climate. Their colonies are thriving where others falter, showing that even in Antarctica, life can pivot, shift, and rewrite its story. The same story of resilience is echoed in the whales. Once hunted nearly to extinction, these giants now return to Antarctic waters in growing numbers, their haunting songs vibrating through the icy seas. Humpback whales, with their acrobatic breaches, remind us of what recovery looks like when humanity chooses restraint. They follow the great swarms of krill, their migrations a testament to patience and endurance. Yet, their survival too hangs on a fragile thread. If the krill decline, the whales will suffer, and the progress of decades may unravel in a single generation. Among the most enigmatic of the guardians are the creatures we have barely begun to understand. Beneath the ice shelves, in waters isolated for thousands of years, researchers have discovered sponges and corals clinging to rocks, nourished by currents in total darkness. These organisms grow so slowly that some may be centuries, even millennia old. Their very existence forces us to rethink what survival means, not speed, not abundance, but endurance across ages. In these silent depths, life measures time in centuries rather than seasons, embodying the patience of the continent itself. Above, in the skies, the wandering albatross continues its timeless vigil. With wings stretching wider than any other bird, it glides across entire oceans, returning only to nest. Its lifespan can stretch beyond half a century, and in that time, it may circle the globe dozens of times. The albatross is not bound by human borders, not confined by continents, but is instead a citizen of the wind. In its endless journey, it becomes a symbol of continuity, proof that Antarctica is not just a frozen land, but a crossroads of the planet's living systems. That no guardian, no matter how enduring, can face change alone. The forces reshaping Antarctica, melting ice, shifting currents, declining prey, are not challenges these creatures have faced before. Their fates are now entangled with ours. Every decision made in distant cities, every factory that burns fuel, every forest felled, every policy ignored, reaches them in the form of warming seas and thinning ice. In this way, humanity has become an unseen guardian of Antarctica, though not always a wise one. This raises a haunting truth. The guardians of Antarctica are not only animals, but responsibilities. They exist as mirrors, forcing us to reflect on what kind of stewards we wish to be. Will we allow the krill to dwindle under the weight of industrial fishing? Will we stand aside as ice shelves collapse and breeding grounds vanish? Or will we recognize that protecting these creatures means protecting ourselves, our oceans, our climate, and our shared future? Yet, there is also hope in human action. Protected marine reserves have been established in the Southern Ocean, sanctuaries where fishing is restricted and ecosystems allowed to flourish. International agreements, though fragile, aim to safeguard the krill harvest and preserve the balance of the food chain. Scientists, braving the harshest conditions on Earth, continue to study and advocate for the guardians who cannot speak for themselves. Each of these efforts is a thread in the larger fabric of survival. Fragile, yes, but powerful when woven together. Perhaps the greatest lesson of Antarctica's living legacy is that endurance is not just about strength. It is about connection. Penguins huddle to survive the cold. Whales follow krill across vast seas. Algae bloom beneath the ice to feed creatures that in turn sustain giants. Each life is bound to another, each survival dependent on the survival of the whole. The guardians of Antarctica show us that to endure is to belong, to adapt is to remain connected. And so, as the clock of change ticks louder, we are faced with the same choice that life here has faced for millions of years: adapt or vanish. The guardians have shown us their path, one of resilience, patience, and unity. The question now is whether we too can follow it. The guardians of Antarctica, from the smallest algae to the mightiest whale, are not simply survivors of the cold. They are voices in an ancient chorus, each carrying a note in the song of the frozen continent. Together, they tell a story of resilience, adaptation, and endurance across ages. Yet, as we reach the conclusion of this chapter, their story sharpens into something more than wonder. It becomes a call, a reminder that their fate is tied to ours in ways both visible and unseen. Standing on the icy shores, watching penguins gather in their bustling colonies, it is easy to believe that this world is eternal. The air is crisp, the sea glitters, the cries of life ring out against the silence. But look closer, and cracks begin to show. Glaciers groan and split, seas warm ever so slightly, and breeding grounds shift farther south each year. What seems eternal is, in truth, vulnerable. The Guardians are fighting a battle against time, and humanity stands at the center of that struggle. Consider the krill, the humble architects of abundance. Their swarms once seemed endless, vast clouds pulsing through the Southern Ocean like living tides. But industrial fishing fleets now sweep through their feeding grounds, competing with whales, seals, and penguins for the same prey. Each net cast is more than a catch. It is a disruption to a chain of life that has endured for millions of years. Without krill, the Guardians unravel. Protecting them is not a matter of choice. It is a matter of survival for the entire ecosystem. Then there are the whales, who embody both tragedy and hope. For centuries, they were hunted without mercy, driven to the edge of extinction. Their blood stained the Southern Ocean. Their bones litter beaches. And yet, given the chance, they return. Today, as whaling has diminished, humpbacks and blue whales once again sing through Antarctic waters. Their recovery is fragile, but it is real. They are living proof that protection works, that humanity can undo some of the damage it has inflicted. But they are also proof of how easily such progress can be lost if vigilance falters. The seals, too, remind us of the delicate dance of survival. Weddell seals carve their breathing holes in the ice, teaching their pups to swim in waters colder than death. Their lives are entwined with the rhythm of the sea ice. As the ice shrinks, so too does their sanctuary. For them, as for all guardians, the loss of habitat is not gradual. It is immediate, final, and irreversible. Their cries across the frozen shore are both songs of survival and warnings of what is at stake. Even the birds, masters of the sky, are not immune. The wandering albatross may spend years gliding over oceans, but it cannot escape the hooks and lines of distant fishing vessels. Many die needlessly, ensnared by human carelessness. To lose an albatross is to lose a piece of the spirit of Antarctica, a reminder that even the skies, once limitless, are vulnerable to human reach. And yet, amid the struggle, there is an undeniable truth. Antarctica's guardians endure because they have always endured. They have weathered ice ages, shifts in continents, and storms that could swallow empires. Their resilience is a lesson written in every adaptation, every migration, every call across the ice. But they cannot adapt to everything. They cannot adapt to relentless exploitation, unchecked warming, or indifference. That burden rests on us. What then is our role? Perhaps it is to become guardians ourselves, protectors of a continent that cannot speak, defenders of creatures that cannot fight alone. The Antarctic Treaty was the first step, declaring that this land belongs to no nation, only to peace and science. But treaties are words. Action is what matters now. Action to limit what we take, to reduce what we destroy, to safeguard what remains untouched. Action to recognize that our survival is bound to theirs. In this way, Antarctica's living legacy is more than a story of wildlife. It is a story of humanity's place in the great web of life. The Guardians remind us that we are not separate from nature, but part of it. To let them vanish would be to let part of ourselves vanish as well. To protect them is to protect the very balance that allows us to exist. So imagine once more standing on the edge of the world. The wind lashes across your face. The sea crashes against cliffs of ice. And before you, life endures. Penguins clustered against the cold. Whales rising in the distance. Birds soaring above the endless horizon. In this place, you understand something simple yet profound. The guardians of Antarctica are not only theirs to defend, they are ours. The choice is before us. We can let them fall, and with them, the silence of a broken continent will echo forever. Or we can rise as guardians alongside them, ensuring that Antarctica's legacy is not only survival but flourishing, not only endurance but hope. The ice still waits. The guardians still endure. And the future, fragile and new,